The millionaire said he would marry anyone who played Chopin. Then a waitress shocked him. If this story finds you, stay until the end. Because sometimes, the smallest notes can change the course of an entire life. The hum of conversation drifts through the marble hall of the Manhattan Conservatory, where chandeliers glow like frozen suns above crystal glasses and velvet gowns. Cameras flash. The air smells faintly of champagne and pride. Tonight is the annual Music for Hope Gala, where every guest looks like a magazine cover and every smile hides a story. At the center of it all stands Alexander Reed, 35, impeccably dressed in a tailored black tuxedo. His expression is calm, almost amused, as a journalist points a microphone toward him. "Mr. Reed," she asks, "what inspires a technology billionaire like you to sponsor a classical concert each year?" He glances toward the grand piano on stage, its polished surface reflecting 1,000 lights. "Music," he says, "reminds us that perfection without emotion is meaningless." Then, with a hint of mischief, he adds, "I will marry anyone who can play Chopin better than my AI pianist." Oriwe. Laughter ripples through the crowd. The cameras flash again. The line becomes a headline before the night ends. But in the far corner, behind the catering table, someone does not laugh. Maya Lin, 26, haircut neatly to her shoulders, wipes down an empty glass with a white linen towel. Her uniform smells faintly of citrus cleaner, her shoes pinch her feet, and her shift is only halfway done. Yet when she hears that name Chopin, something flickers behind her tired eyes. Her fingers pause, still curved around the stem of a wine glass, as if remembering a different life, a stage light, a metronome, a voice saying, "Feel, not count." The applause fades. The music starts again. Maya sets the glass down, straightens her back, and moves toward the next table, careful not to let the tears form. Outside the grand hall, New York hums like a restless machine. Neon spills across the wet sidewalks. In a small apartment in Queens, a second-hand keyboard waits in the corner, 2 of its keys stuck forever. It has been 3 years since Maya touched it. Rent comes first. Dreams come last. That night, after the gala, the video of Alexander's remark floods the internet. People argue whether it was arrogance or charm. The tag reads, "Number the Chopin Challenge." For Alexander, it was nothing but a passing line, a careless dare thrown into the noise of fame. For Maya, it is a spark she cannot ignore. As she rides the late subway home, she scrolls through the clip on her phone. The sound quality is bad, but the challenge is clear. She whispers to herself, "Anyone, huh?" The train shakes, and the city lights flash across her reflection in the window. For a moment, she sees both the waitress she is and the pianist she used to be. When she reaches her stop, the cold night air wraps around her like a reminder. She tucks her hair behind her ear, unlocks her door, and steps inside the quiet apartment. The single lamp flickers weakly. Her mother's photo rests above the keyboard. Maya sits down. Her hands hover above the keys. Dust rises in the lamplight. She presses one note soft, hesitant, but true. Then another. Outside, the city keeps moving, unaware that somewhere in a tiny apartment a forgotten melody has just awakened. And from this moment, nothing in either of their lives will sound the same again. Now, let us return to our main character. Before we continue, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and it is the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us continue the story. The morning light filters through the narrow window of Maya's small apartment in Queens. The sound of traffic mixes with the clatter of her old coffee maker. On the counter sits a stack of overdue bills and a letter from the landlord taped shut with red ink. She sighs, pours herself a cup of coffee, and glances toward the keyboard in the corner. The faint trace of last night's melody still lingers in the air. Maya works 2 jobs, mornings at a coffee shop, evenings catering events. Between them, there is barely enough time to sleep. Yet as she ties her apron and checks the time on her cracked phone screen, she cannot stop thinking about that viral video, the Chopin Challenge. Across town, in a high-rise office that touches the clouds, Alexander Reed leans back in his leather chair, scrolling through endless clips of his own face. Headlines flash on every screen. The billionaire who dares love through music. His assistant, Evelyn, a poised woman with long dark hair that falls to her waist, enters carrying a folder. "You have 3 interviews this afternoon," she says, setting it on his desk. "All of them want you to repeat that line about Chopin." Alexander sighs. I said it once. It was a joke. Evelyn smiles softly. The world does not believe that. They think you are serious. Maybe it is not such a bad thing. He glances at her. What do you mean? Shehesitatas. People miss romance, Alexander. Real emotion. Maybe they need to believe that someone like you could still fall in love with music or a woman who plays it. He says nothing, but her words linger. He turns toward the window, watching the city spread below like a silent orchestra. Somewhere inside him, the notes of a memory stir a woman's laughter, the faint sound of Chopin echoing from another life. That night, Maya finishes her shift at the cafe. The rain starts again, thin and cold. She walks home with her jacket pulled tight, the city lights turning every puddle into a mirror. At a red light, she stops beside a street musician playing under the awning of a closed store. His fingers move over the keys of a battered keyboard, broken but brave. The tune is off-key, but the effort touches her. She drops her only spare dollar into his cup. The man nods, smiling. You play? Maya hesitates, used to. Then you still do, he says, pressing one key with a shaky finger. Once music gets in, it never leaves. She walks away, heart heavier than before. At home, her phone buzzes with a message from the catering agency. Last-minute call. Event tomorrow night. Reed Foundation, Manhattan. She blinks. The name pulls a thread in her memory. Reed as in Alexander Reed. The next evening, the grand hall glows again. Maya stands among the catering staff in their crisp uniforms, arranging glasses on silver trays. Her hair is pinned neatly, her shoulders squared. She tells herself she is invisible. The event is called Open Piano Night, a community concert sponsored by the Reed Foundation. Guests gather in glittering dresses, sipping champagne, waiting for the featured pianist to appear. But backstage, panic stirs. The performer is stuck in Boston's snowstorm, flight canceled. The stage manager whispers frantically into his headset. Then, a name appears on the printed list, accidentally copied from the catering staff roster. Maya Lin. Next on stage, Maya Lin, the host announces brightly into the microphone. The audience applauds, expecting another performer. Maya freezes, the tray trembling in her hands. Evelyn, standing near the edge of the crowd, looks up in shock. She knows that name. And before anyone can correct the mistake, the spotlight falls directly on Maya. The piano waits under the glow, silent and impossibly beautiful. Maya swallows hard. Her pulse pounds in her ears. She sets the tray down, steps forward slowly, and climbs the stairs toward the stage. The world blurs behind the light. She sits. Her fingers hover above the keys, and in the breathless silence of that hall, the first note of Chopin's Nocturne in E minor begins to rise. The sound of the first note floats through the hall like a breath held too long. Soft, fragile, pure. Every conversation fades. Every camera lowers. The audience leans forward as if the air itself has stopped moving. Maya's hands tremble for a moment, then steady. She has not touched a real grand piano in years, yet the muscle memory returns like an old friend. Her fingers glide across the ivory keys, painting the room with Chopin's sorrowful grace. The melody grows, delicate yet fearless. It fills the marble hall, echoing off the chandeliers and the golden walls. Near the back, Alexander Reed, who had stepped away to take a phone call, turns when he hears it. The sound freezes him mid-step. He knows this piece. He knows every rise, every fall, every breath between notes. It was the same nocturne played by Clara, the woman he once loved, on the night of her last concert before the crash that took her life. For years, he has avoided Chopin entirely. Even in elevators or movies, he would turn it off. But now, hearing it again played by someone he has never seen, feels like standing in the middle of a storm he thought was gone forever. He walks toward the stage slowly, his heart pounding. The audience begins to realize that this is not part of the schedule. A whisper runs through the crowd, a ripple of disbelief. Maya does not notice. Her eyes are closed. Every note is a confession, every pause a wound reopening. For her, this is not about a millionaire's challenge. It is about remembering who she used to be before the world told her to stop. When the last note fades, the hall stays silent. Then, one by one, people begin to stand. The applause starts soft, then grows into thunder. Maya blinks, startled by the sound. She rises, embarrassed, ready to explain the mistake, but her voice is lost under the ovation. From the side of the stage, Alexander appears. He looks at her for a long moment, as if searching for proof that she is real. The light catches the faint sheen of tears in his eyes. He steps closer. Who taught you to play like that? Maya hesitates, unsure if she is about to be fired or praised. Silence, she says softly. Silence taught me. A slow smile tugs at his lips, the kind that hides more pain than joy. Silence has good taste. The audience laughs lightly, thinking it is part of the show. Cameras flash again. Someone shouts, "She should take the challenge." Maya flushes red, shaking her head. I did not mean to. But Alexander raises a hand, stopping her. You played because you had something to say. That is the only reason worth playing. Evelyn, watching from the side, exhales the breath she has been holding. She sees something shift in Alexander's eyes, something she has not seen in years. Warmth. After the event, reporters swarm. The headline writes itself. Waitress becomes star at Reed Foundation Gala. But Maya wants none of it. She leaves quietly through the service door, clutching her apron and trying to understand what just happened. Later that night, Alexander sits alone in his car outside the venue, the sound of Chopin still ringing in his mind. He replays the image of the young woman at the piano, her short hair, her calm face, her trembling hands. He cannot explain it, but something about her playing felt alive. He tells himself it was only curiosity, yet when he gets home to his silent penthouse, he cannot sleep. He searches online for her name, Maya Lind, and finds nothing. No record, no videos, no past. Just that single moment burned into 1,000 phones across the city. Meanwhile, in her small apartment, Maya stares at her reflection in the window. The rain falls harder now, blurring the city lights. For the first time in years, she feels both seen and invisible at once. She whispers to herself, I should have never touched that piano. But deep down, she knows that she would do it all again. Because for one fleeting moment, she remembered what it felt like to be alive. And somewhere across the city, the man who threw out a careless challenge now cannot stop hearing the sound of her music. The next morning, the sun climbs over the skyline, slicing through the fog that hangs above Manhattan. Newspapers spill across breakfast tables with a single headline, Waitress stuns Reed Gala with Chopin performance. Maya sees the story on the CAF television while wiping a counter. Her coworker nudges her playfully. You kind of look like that girl, he jokes. She forces a smile. Maybe she just has the same tired eyes. But she cannot deny it, the girl in the grainy photo is her. The picture shows her frozen at the piano, the light haloing her hair, her face half-shadowed but unmistakably real. Her hands tremble as she changes the channel. She tells herself no one will recognize her. No one ever does. Across town, inside the glass tower of Reed Technologies, Alexander scrolls through the same article. His eyes linger on the photo longer than he intends. He feels something that has been missing for years. Curiosity, maybe hope. He calls out, Evelyn, can you come in for a moment? Evelyn enters, her long hair flowing over a dark blazer. I know, she says before he can speak. The board wants to know if you plan to turn the Chopin Challenge into a marketing campaign. They think it is great publicity. Alexander leans back, unamused. That is not what this is. She tilts her head. Then what is it? He looks out the window at the city below. A reminder, he says quietly, that beauty does not need to be scheduled. Evelyn studies him for a moment. Do you want me to find her? He does not answer right away, but his reflection in the glass nods before he can stop himself. That evening, Maya returns home to find an envelope taped to her door. Inside is a formal invitation printed on thick ivory paper. From the office of Alexander Reed. You are cordially invited to meet at Reed Foundation, 6 p.m. Thursday, regarding a potential partnership in our community music initiative. She reads it twice, then a third time, certain it must be a mistake. Why would a billionaire remember her? She sets it aside, convincing herself it is just a polite formality. But curiosity keeps her awake all night. On Thursday, she stands outside the foundation building, dwarfed by its marble columns and mirrored glass. She adjusts her thrifted blazer, takes a deep breath, and steps inside. The lobby smells like cedar and fresh coffee. A receptionist greets her with practiced warmth. Miss Lynn? Mr. Reed will see you now. Maya follows down a hallway lined with framed photographs of orchestras and children learning music. Her reflection glides beside her in the polished floor until she reaches a tall glass door. Inside, Alexander stands by the window, hands in his pockets, the late sun cutting a gold line across his face. He turns when she enters, his expression softening into something almost human. Thank you for coming, he says. I did not know I had a choice, she replies, nervous but honest. He smiles faintly. You always have a choice. Sit, please. She sits, clutching her purse on her lap. I heard you once studied at the Manhattan Conservatory, he begins. Why did you stop? Maya's throat tightens. Life got louder than music. He nods slowly, as if the words make perfect sense. Then he opens a folder on his desk and slides a contract toward her. I am launching a new program at the Foundation Music for All. We need someone who understands what music feels like outside of privilege. I want you to help us. Maya blinks. Help? Me? You have a gift, he says. Not just for playing, but for making people feel. That cannot be taught. She shakes her head. I do not belong here. I am not a teacher. I clean tables. He leans forward slightly. You played one song and stopped a room full of cynics. That is more teaching than most can do in a lifetime. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. The sound of the city hums beyond the glass. Finally, Maya says quietly, You do not even know me. Alexander's voice softens. Maybe that is the point. 1. He stands, offering his hand. Think about it. The offer is real. She hesitates, then shakes his hand. His grip is warm, firm, certain. As she walks out of the building, her reflection in the glass doors shows someone she barely recognizes, a woman standing a little taller than before. Behind her, Alexander watches through the window, a faint smile touching his face. For the first time in years, the silence inside him feels less like grief and more like peace. Days pass, but the offer from Alexander Reed lingers in Maya's mind like a soft echo she cannot silence. She folds the contract into her journal, pretending it is not there, yet every time she opens the pages, it stares back at her like an unfinished song. At the cafe, her co-workers talk about the mysterious billionaire who invited a waitress to join his foundation. They gossip, laugh, and scroll through photos online. Maya keeps her head down, stirring milk into coffee, hoping no one connects the dots. That evening, as she walks home through the busy Queen streets, her phone buzzes. A message from an unknown number lights up the screen. This is Alexander Reed. The offer still stands. Come to the foundation tomorrow, 10 a.m. No expectations, just a conversation. She hesitates, standing in the drizzle beneath a flickering street lamp. It would be easier to ignore him, to stay small, unseen. But something inside her, something that once played Chopin without fear, refuses to stay quiet. The next morning, she rides the subway into Manhattan. The train rocks gently, its windows filled with reflections of strangers lost in their own thoughts. She studies her hands, the same hands that once made a billionaire freeze. When she arrives at the foundation, a young assistant leads her through the same hallway as before. The photos on the walls seem brighter this time. Alexander waits in the same office, dressed simply in a gray suit, no tie. You came, he says. I almost did not, she replies. He gestures toward a small practice room behind the glass wall. Inside sits a polished upright piano, sunlight spilling across the keys. Then maybe it is good you changed your mind. He opens the door and steps aside. Play something. Anything. Maya hesitates. I do not perform on command. This is not a performance, he says gently. This is a conversation without words. She studies him for a moment, then steps into the room. The door closes softly behind her. Her fingers hover above the keys, unsure where to begin. Then, almost by instinct, she plays the same nocturne, the one that started everything. But this time she plays slower, deeper. Not for applause, not for challenge, for herself. Through the glass, Alexander listens, his expression unreadable. He feels the same ache in his chest, but it no longer hurts the way it used to. It feels like remembering how to breathe. When she finishes, he claps once quietly. That is exactly what I meant, he says. That honesty, that sound. Maya looks down, embarrassed. Why are you doing this? You could hire anyone. He answers simply, because you remind me that music is supposed to heal, not decorate. For the first time, Maya sees the man behind the name, the grief, the exhaustion, the quiet longing. She nods slowly. Then I will help. But only if it is about the music, not your guilt. Yent. His smile fades into something sincere. Deal. In the following weeks, Maya begins working at the foundation. She helps design programs for children from low-income neighborhoods, guiding them to express emotion through sound. Her laughter starts to fill the once quiet halls. Evelyn watches from afar, a hint of relief in her eyes. She sees what Alexander does not yet say aloud, that this woman is changing the air around him. One afternoon, as the students finish their lessons, Maya stays behind to tidy the room. Alexander appears at the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. "You drink it black, right?" he asks. She smiles faintly. "Sometimes with hope." He chuckles. "I will remember that." They sit near the window, the late light painting gold across the floor. For a moment there is no distance between billionaire and waitress, no challenge, no fear. Just two people sharing the quiet. As the day fades, Maya glances at him. "When you first made that promise, the one about marrying whoever played Chopin, did you mean it?" Alexander meets her gaze. "I meant that whoever could make me feel again would deserve everything I have to give." She looks away, unsure how to respond. The piano behind them glows in the dim light, waiting. Neither of them knows it yet, but the music has only begun to play. The following week, the rhythm of life at the Reed Foundation changes. What used to be quiet corridors now echo with the sound of children laughing, piano keys warming up, and Maya's calm voice guiding each student to listen to their own heartbeat before touching a single note. Alexander often watches from a distance. He stands by the glass panels of the upper balcony, hands in his pockets, pretending to check his phone while listening to her lessons below. Something about the way she moves, gentle, patient, unpolished, reminds him that sincerity has a music of its own. When Maya looks up and catches him watching, he quickly turns away, pretending to study a report. Yet every time, she notices the faintest smile flicker at the corner of his mouth. By the end of the month, the Foundation's Music for All project becomes the subject of citywide praise. Newspapers that once mocked the Chopin challenge now print headlines about the billionaire who found humanity through harmony. But not everyone in Alexander's circle sees this as good news. One afternoon, in a sleek conference room high above Manhattan, the board of Reed Technologies gathers. Suits, silence, screens glowing with numbers. A gray-haired director clears his throat. "With respect, Alexander, this foundation project is costing us too much time and attention. Investors want focus, not philanthropy." Alexander leans back in his chair. "Music is an investment in the soul of the city." The man frowns. "Your job is not to save souls. It is to increase value." Evelyn sits quietly beside him, her long hair falling over her shoulder. She studies Alexander's expression. He is calm, but there is steel in his voice when he answers. "I will not build value on emptiness," he says. "If you want someone else to run the company, you are free to ask." The room falls silent. No one dares to challenge him further. After the meeting, Evelyn follows him into the hallway. "You should be careful," she says softly. "They will not let this go easily." He nods. "Let them talk. I have spent too many years listening to noise. I would rather hear music again." That evening, Maya finishes a lesson and finds Alexander waiting near the piano with 2 cups of tea instead of coffee this time. "Peace offering," he says, handing her one. She smiles. "What am I forgiving you for?" "For overworking you," he replies, "and for watching from the balcony, like a ghost." She laughs, the sound light and unguarded. "You do that often?" "Every day," he admits. "You make it look so easy." "It is not," she says. "It just feels right." "Ugh." He nods slowly, then sits beside her on the piano bench. The two of them face the keys, their reflections mingling in the polished lid. "Play something," he says. She shakes her head. "You first?" He chuckles. "I have not played in years." "Then it is about time," she says, gently nudging his shoulder. Reluctantly, Alexander places his fingers on the keys. The first note is awkward, hesitant. Then another follows, smoother. He begins to remember the rhythm, the control, the calm that used to come only when music filled the room. Maya watches quietly, smiling. "See, it is still there." He stops playing and looks at her. "Maybe it is because you are here." The air between them stills. Outside the tall windows, the city glows with early evening light. The world feels smaller, softer. Maya looks away first. "You should not say things like that." "Why not?" "Because I am not someone who belongs in your world." "Away." Alexander's voice lowers. "Maybe my world is the one that has been missing something." She does not answer. Instead, she rises, smoothing her skirt. "Good night, Mr. Reed." He stands too. "Alexander," he corrects gently. Maya hesitates at the doorway. "Good night, Alexander." As she leaves, he remains by the piano, staring at the keys. For the first time in years, the silence in the room feels alive, filled not with grief, but with possibility. Outside, Maya walks into the cool night air. She breathes deeply, realizing that his words have unsettled something inside her. She tells herself it is just gratitude, just admiration, nothing more. But deep down, both of them know that something is changing note by note, quietly rewriting the melody of their lives. A week later, the echo of quiet happiness still lingers in the halls of the Reed Foundation. The children practice their spring recital. Maya's laughter blends with the sound of piano keys, and even the staff walk lighter. For once, everything feels right. But perfection never lasts long in the world Alexander Reed lives in. It begins with a single article published on a financial blog. Billionaire CEO distracted by waitress turned employee. Board questions Reed's stability. Within hours, the story spreads. Photos of Alexander and Maya near the piano, taken without permission, fill the headlines. The tone is cruel, mocking her background, calling her a charity case turned muse. Zhou Tanggao. When Maya arrives at work that morning, whispers chase her through the lobby. The receptionist avoids eye contact. Someone leaves a copy of the newspaper on her desk. Her hands shake as she reads the words, "A waitress who played Chopin and bewitched a billionaire." The sound of her own name feels like an insult. She storms into the rehearsal room where Alexander is speaking with a journalist. The moment she walks in, she sees the flash of another camera. She turns away, humiliated. "Is this what you wanted?" she asks sharply, her voice trembling. "Another headline? Another story to make your company look more human?" Alexander dismisses the journalist with a quick gesture. The room empties, leaving only the two of them. "Maya, You did not what?" She cuts him off. "You did not know people would treat me like a joke? You did not know how this would look?" His voice stays calm, but there is pain behind it. "I never wanted them to hurt you." "Comment ye?" "Then why did you let them?" Her eyes glisten, but she refuses to cry. "You have power, Alexander. You have every privilege in this city. I have nothing to protect me except my name, and now even that is theirs." He takes a step closer, but she moves back. "You told me music was supposed to heal," she whispers, "but all of this feels like another wound." Alexander opens his mouth to speak, but no words come. She walks past him, leaving the room before he can follow. Later that evening, Evelyn finds Alexander alone in his office. The city lights shimmer through the glass, reflecting the weight on his face. "She is gone," Evelyn says quietly. "She resigned an hour ago." He nods without turning. "I know." Evelyn crosses her arms, her tone gentle but honest. "You froze because she reminded you of Clara, but you loved her because she reminded you of yourself." Alexander finally looks up, his voice low. "Maybe, but I did not realize it until I lost her." Outside, rain begins to fall against the window. The reflection of the city ripples, distorted and uncertain, just like the music that now refuses to play. In a small apartment across the river, Maya packs her things in silence. The keyboard sits untouched in the corner, the keys gathering dust again. She tells herself she is done with music, done with millionaires, done with the foolish hope that kindness could bridge their worlds. But as she turns off the lamp, a single note echoes in her mind, the same one she played that first night. Soft. Trembling. Unfinished. 2 weeks pass. The Reed Foundation feels different now, colder, quieter. The laughter of the children has faded to polite silence, and the piano in the main hall sits untouched beneath a white dust cover. Alexander moves through his office like a shadow. Meetings blur together, emails pile up, and the board's demands return louder than ever. Yet none of it feels real. He stares at his reflection in the window and hears only the echo of her last words. Music is supposed to heal. Evelyn watches him from the doorway one evening, concern softening her voice. "You cannot keep doing this," she says. "You built a foundation to bring people joy, but now you are the one who needs saving." He turns away. "I thought I could protect her. Instead, I made her the center of a storm." Evelyn nods slowly. "Then fix it, but not with money. With meaning." That night, Alexander sits alone at the piano for the first time since Maya left. The keys are cool under his fingers. He plays the first notes of the same Chopin nocturne she once played. The melody stumbles, halts, then finds its way, again imperfect but alive. In that moment, an idea begins to take shape. Not for a performance, not for publicity, but for redemption. A month later, invitations spread across New York City under the title Harmony Reborn. A night of music. For every heart. The event promises to celebrate the power of compassion through sound. There is no mention of sponsors, no luxury branding, and no list of performers. Only one line stands out at the bottom of the invitation, dedicated to those who play not for applause but for life. Maya hears about it from a neighbor who volunteers at the local shelter. The invitation bears her name in delicate script. She hesitates for days before finally deciding to attend, unsure if it is forgiveness or curiosity that leads her there. When she arrives, the hall looks nothing like the grand galas she once served. The chandeliers are dimmed, replaced by hundreds of small candles. Families sit beside artists, workers beside executives. The piano sits center stage, its surface polished to a quiet shine. Then Alexander steps onto the stage. He looks tired, yet lighter somehow, as if the weight of guilt has been replaced by purpose. Tonight, he begins, his voice carrying softly through the room, is not about wealth or names, it is about gratitude. One person reminded me that music does not belong to the powerful, it belongs to the brave. And sometimes, bravery looks like sitting at a piano when no one believes you should. A murmur spreads through the audience as he turns toward Maya's seat near the back. Their eyes meet for the first time in weeks. He gestures toward the stage. "Maya Lin," he says, "would you play for us?" The crowd parts as she rises slowly. Her heart beats so loudly, she can barely hear her own footsteps. When she reaches the piano, Alexander steps aside, whispering only, "Play Chopin again. But this time, play it for yourself." She sits down, her fingers trembling as they touch the keys. Then, with a deep breath, she begins. The music rises not as sorrow, but as strength. Every note speaks of forgiveness, of dignity, of rediscovering her own worth. The hall grows still, every listener caught in the fragile human beauty of sound. And when the final chord fades, the entire room stands. It is not a roar of applause, but a wave of quiet respect, a moment of stillness that says, "You are seen, you are enough." At the edge of the stage, Alexander's eyes shine with unshed tears. He knows this night is not about him. It is about her. About the woman who reminded him what it means to feel alive again.